Episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by the death of the 2017 Giants season. If you're tired of watching the Giants suck, well, you're not alone. So are we. It is over for those guys. It is done, and this show is sponsored by the death of that season and the hope of a renewed sense of success in 2018, an even-numbered year, which has kind of been our jam for most of the decade. Raymond, before we get started, why don't you let them know where they can find us?
You can like us on Facebook.com/TheGoldCast. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The Goldcast. However, on Twitter, it is at The Goldcast _. That's the only difference there. You can also subscribe to us via iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher, all under the same moniker of The Goldcast. So be sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe. The subscribe on the latter platforms are definitely helpful in that you'll get notifications whenever we go live with our new podcast shows, and that's really helpful. So on YouTube, definitely click that little bell so that way you can get pinged and listen in on all of our sports bias.
Boom. Yeah, we got a little episode. I mean, July has been just a god-awful month.
It's a quiet month, yeah.
It's been very quiet. We think next year, guys, we're just going to take July off. We're just going to give you guys a break and say we'll be back in August. But we decided to do one more episode because we didn't say that, so it would be unfair, and we care about you and your feelings. So we are back with a small episode just covering America's obsession with Kyrie Irving and then a look towards football because it's back. GoldCast Nation, here we go.
San Francisco, are you ready? This is the GoldCast.
Boom. Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the faithful. We are the voice of the Bay. We are the voice of every single fan that loves a good team in San Francisco. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my co-host, my brother,
Reuben Solis I, baby.
Boom! We're back. We're back in the slowest time of the month, almost the last day of the month. It is the last day of the month, isn't it? Is tomorrow the 1st? I never know
Tomorrow's
which month is the 30th.
Tomorrow's the 31st. I always get confused with that too.
I never know which one is which. You know, I never know. There's like a rhyme that you do that I never memorized because that was like, wow, I'm not going to memorize that rhyme. It's too much. But yes, it is the slowest month. This is the worst month. The next worst month, so the worst month in all sports, without question, has to be July. The NBA Finals is over. Like, basketball's pretty much done with, draft, all that stuff. The All-Star break isn't usually till the middle of the month, and football is still feels like, it's about a month. It's about a month and a half away. And then the next worst month, I would have to say, has got to be March. March is bad. Football's over. Is it March? No, February. February is pretty bad. Like, football is over. Super Bowl's done with, like, the first week. And then the rest of February, nothing is happening. Similar to basketball, like, we haven't hit the All-Star break. We're still several months out from the playoffs. It's just a boring month. But July is the worst one. You know it's the worst one when First Take takes the month off. That's when you know it's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty dormant month for sports. I mean,
it is
in the case of analysts, getting vacations. Although NFL Network doesn't seem to be taking any breaks. I still see Good Morning Football, trying to cover as much stuff as they can cover, even during this slow period.
Well, because they're starting to ramp up. I mean, we're like in the preseason of the preseason. Oh, by the way, we are going to do a big fantasy football special. Do not be fooled. That's coming as promised. That we will be returning with the fantasy football special. Your boy Louie, everyone's favorite, America's little brother, and everyone's favorite Los Angeles Rams fan, will be back so we can talk a lot of shit to each other about how crappy his team is and how crappy my team is. We actually had a bet that I forgot we were supposed to finish. Ray, I've got to do this. We had a bet last year. Whoever's team got last place in the NFC West, had to buy hats for it. So, like, I have to buy him a Los Angeles Rams hat that says third place NFC West 2017. Like, that's an accomplishment. And then fourth place NFC West 2017. And that's I forgot about that bet. I've got to make good on that bet. We're also going to be talking about a bunch of MMA stuff later this week. Dan the Man will be back on. Man, there's so much fight stuff happening, Raymond. It's crazy. I know you're not the biggest fight guy, but there's a lot of good fight stuff happening right now. That John Jones fight versus Daniel Cormier over the weekend was huge. He called out Brock Lesnar. That's a whole thing now. The Mayweather-McGregor, what a shit show. You saw some of that, right?
I've seen a little bit of it, of the the preliminary press meetings and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's like about a month out, and that's going to be pretty crazy. I'm actually really looking forward to that fight. That should be some good stuff. But if you're here, welcome to the GoldCast. GoldCast Nation, welcome back. We miss you guys. If you are listening to the GoldCast, you are here for the biased opinion of your fellow fans. We are not here to pretend. We are not here to talk about Boston and New York. We are not here to talk about LA or Dallas. We only talk about one city, one area. That is San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay Area. We're here to talk about the 49ers, the Warriors, the Giants. We're here to make fun of the Raiders and then casually sometimes mention the Oakland A's out of respect for my brother, Raymond Solis I. But you are here for the biased opinion of the GoldCast Nation. This is what you're here for, right? We've got all those other ridiculously biased podcasts out there talking a bunch of ridiculous crap. You're here because San Francisco is in the middle of its greatest sports era of all time. You are here because we have 7 championship appearances in 7 years. We've walked away with 5 titles. We've appeared in all 3 major sports, football, baseball, and basketball. We're just missing that goddamn Super Bowl. I don't want to talk about it. But that is why you're here. Because when we say the numbers 4-11-0, you know that means Joe Montana. And you know that means the most perfect quarterback of all time. You are here because when we say 5 out of 7, you know exactly what that means. If Boston had done this, every ESPN analyst would be talking about how this decade is the greatest decade that Boston's ever had. Blah, blah, blah. And if New York did it, the same thing. But they didn't. We did it. San Francisco Bay Area. That's why you're here. Welcome to the GoldCast. So let's talk, Raymond. Let's begin with America's obsession with Kyrie Irving. Like, I cannot escape these trade talks. Now, before I get everyone pumped, and Raymond, if you disagree, feel free to chime in after I say this. I, for one, don't believe he's going to get traded. I think he's too valuable of an asset. And I think that regardless of however much beef or tension is between LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, I do not believe for 1 second that those guys are not going to be on that team in June when they get their ass kicked again for a 4th time against the Golden State Warriors. I just don't buy it. I think he's too valuable, and I think what teams would have to give up, what the Cavs would be asking for is too much. I think it'll probably be too much. I see him there at least through February, and do we really think that in February, after they've gone through that much of the season, that the Cavaliers are just going to then go, well, okay, we'll let it go now? No way. I doubt it. But America is so obsessed with this right now, and I think it kind of speaks to how slow the sports season is. But I want to hear your thoughts on everything, Raymond. America's obsession, you literally can't escape it. What's the deal?
Well, I think it's a big deal because there are a lot of the talks around it, and you can tell me if you agree with this. I think a lot of the talks, because it stems directly back, or it seems to be, it's suggested that this is all because of his relationship with LeBron James, or his deteriorating relationship with LeBron James. And LeBron James has a history of, he doesn't rub everybody the right way. He's pompous. He's a single child, and he kind of behaves like one, and doesn't necessarily fully understand, some of the social dynamics of being a teammate. I'm not saying he's a bad teammate. He's obviously a good teammate. He has 3 titles under his belt. But in the case of him and Kyrie, for whatever reason, I think, Kyrie was number 1 before LeBron James came back, and he signed a multi-year deal. And as soon as he came back, he became number 2. If that's really the reason why, because he wants to be number 1, then I'm not sure if I buy that one either, because I do believe that some of it is coming, that a lot of this is coming from turmoil between him and LeBron James. I believe that. But what I don't believe is that he wants to be number 1, because LeBron James, it's highly suggested that he's most likely going to leave to another team at the end of next season. I mean, let me pause right there. Do you think he's going to leave at the end of next year, or he's going to re-sign with Cleveland?
I think he's leaving. And in fact, I think the way all this is being spun, the Dan Gilbert thing, the Kyrie thing, the way LeBron is approaching it or not approaching it, I think is he sees this as his backdoor exit. Like all of these things happening for LeBron are like good omens. They're like, oh, this is great. This gives me the perfect excuse because Dan Gilbert stays. No, not Dan Gilbert. I'm sorry. The GM. The hell's that GM's name? It's freaking Cavs. Who cares? David Griffin. That's his name. David Griffin. So all of this happening, I think it's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm. David Griffin stays. Kyrie stays. It's a whole different scenario. But then you've got Kyrie wanting to leave. David Griffin gets fired. And all of a sudden, that Cavs foundation looks a lot rockier. And I think what it does is it really sets up LeBron in position to where he can leave in a way that people go, well, look how the Cavs kind of fell apart. He had no choice. His hand was forced. I think no matter what, he's probably leaving at the end of the year. That's another. I want to talk about that a second later because if he really does come to Los Angeles, as the GoldCast Nation knows, I have lived in LA for 5 years now. I moved from San Francisco to LA to pursue my career, and so that would really suck. I like the Lakers a lot. I love the Lakers. Actually, it's like the one LA team, and if he came here, that'd be it. I'd be out, man. Totally out. I keep one spot in my heart open for the Lakers, so I have one team I can root for in Los Angeles. But if he's here, I'm out, man. That's it. I'm sorry. As a Golden State Warriors fan, as a Bay Area fan, I can't root for LeBron. I can't do it. Anyways, so going back, Ray, yes, I do believe no matter what, he's gone at the end of the year. Please continue your thought.
Exactly, which brings me to my next point, is why I don't believe that one of the reasons is Kyrie wants to be number one somewhere else. It's all he has to do is play out this season, let LeBron go, and then boom, then he becomes number one in Cleveland. He takes over for Cleveland. It's a done deal. He retains the position that he was originally, ascending to right before LeBron James came back. So
exactly.
If I was him, I would just stay put. Just stay put. Because I agree with what you said. I think that what Cleveland wants for a player of Kyrie's caliber, and I think it's a rightfully so that they would ask for a lot, because this is a guy who was a big contributor to that championship last year. As much as I hate to admit it, he had the game-winning shot. And I think what they're going to ask for him is just, I don't think any team's going to be able to match that.
I'm with you on that. I don't think any team is going to be able to match it either. And I think the team that I was the most scared about, because now the big rumor is the Phoenix Suns, and who knows, man, agents leak so many stuff, different parties leak so many stuff, so many different things. But the team I was the most nervous about, that surprisingly a lot of pundits weren't in support of Kyrie going to San Antonio. And I thought that terrified me. You get maybe you convince the Cavs to take LaMarcus Aldridge. We all know he's not very happy over there in San Antonio. You take LaMarcus Aldridge, one or two minor players, over to Cleveland. You send Kyrie over to San Antonio. Now he's not a two-way player like Kawhi, but you take some of that offensive load off Kawhi's shoulders, and you put Kyrie in a position where he's now taking a lot of that, the front-loading that offense, so Kyrie can, he's a masterful defensive player, probably the second best two-way player in the game, maybe third if you're looking at KD. It's all debatable at this point. But Kawhi was, single-handedly kicking the shit out of the Warriors in Game 1 in the playoffs this year. He was a beast. You put Kyrie next to him. A lot of pundits didn't think that worked. Do you agree or disagree? I think that worked, but maybe I'm just not seeing some. We're fanalists. We're fans. I'm a fan guy. I'm not an analyst guy. I'm not a look at a million stats guys. That's what I leave ESPN and The Ringer to do. That's what those guys do, and I love hearing when they talk about that stuff. It's really interesting. But what do you think, Ray? If he went to San Antonio, I thought that made that team instantly, Western Conference Finals, San Antonio, and Golden State.
On paper, yes, but practically speaking, from a schematic perspective, he does not fit their system because he's a one-way player. But he's also still young enough that he could be coached, to improve that side of his game. So you never know.
He played pretty
I
good
just don't-
defense in year one. The first time the Cavs and the Warriors went head to head, he played pretty good defense, and he did a pretty decent job of shutting down Steph.
Yeah, I mean, since then he's kind of ascended into this, one-man scoring machine. He's basically becoming, the Cavaliers version of Melo. So, and
Yeah.
it's easy to, I mean, when you're good at that, when you're as good as he is at that, especially his ability to finish at the rim in addition to his really good shooting, it's easy to kind of get complacent into those habits because that's, basketball is mostly scoring, so it makes sense for the sport, but in terms of what the Spurs do, I don't think he fits them very well, and I'm not sure if Popovich even has the patience to coach him. You know what I mean? Because like their system is so polished that the players they bring in are players that fit the system that they can plug and play, not players that need to acclimate. You know what I mean? Even though LaMarcus Aldridge has not acclimated very well, he was somebody that they thought had the skill, had already had those habits that would fit well with their system, and coming into their system, he would just see further refinement. Whereas in Kyrie's place, he has a skill set that is just part of his skill set. There's an absence of skills that Kyrie doesn't use that the Spurs need him to have if he's to come into that system.
That makes sense. I get it. I still think he would do really well in that system, and I think you could maybe pull like a Steph and get him to rebound and steal, which is where Steph has really found himself thriving defensively. I think maybe you put him in that kind of a situation and he thrives. But I am not a basketball coach. They pay those guys a lot more money than they pay me. The NBA actually pays me zero money. I don't know how much money they pay you, Ray, but they pay me $0. To this day, I'm still offended. So let's talk a little bit.
I pay them for a hot dog and Coke. I don't drink soda.
Yeah, I actually
last time I checked,
NBA.
I paid the NBA.
Steph Curry, you need to hit that 3-point, boy. I pay your salary.
Exactly.
So let's talk about this. Let's going back. So kind of going back to what you're saying. So Kyrie gets to stay the man if he stays. So then this is really about LeBron, like we've been hearing. Because, yeah, he inherits the team if he just stays. And if everyone believes LeBron's leaving, and it sounds like everyone does. I mean, Kyrie wants out. So then we're safe in assuming that if he leaves, then that means that, that Kyrie inherits the team, full control of the team a year from now. But if he doesn't want to wait for that, then it's LeBron. He doesn't want to play with LeBron. I feel like that's kind of the natural conclusion to that hypothesis. You know what I mean? That question. But either way, America is obsessed, and I'm a little obsessed. I have to admit, I'm just hoping for it. Let's circle this all the way back to the GoldCast Nation. The only reason I really want this to happen, and you guys know this, don't any of you lie. Don't anyone from the GoldCast Nation even pretend this isn't the reason. You want it because you just don't want to have to deal with the Cavs, Warriors 4. Now, none of us believe they're going to win. It's not about them winning. I just want to see a different team. We all believe the Warriors will be back there for a 4th straight trip. But I don't want to see the Cavs there. We ended it. It's the 3rd round was it. And secretly, if you're in the Bay Area and you're a Golden State Warriors fan, the reason you want Kyrie gone is because you want to see a different team there and you want them to go. Am I right, Ray?
Mm-hmm. I think, and the Cavs are actually, LeBron is still the villain of the NBA. So any controversy surrounding him is going to be looked at in kind of a negative context, which obviously this kind of just doesn't have a favorable context for Cleveland. And I don't think we would be talking about this if LeBron were on the team or weren't on the team.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So moving on, let's get into the 49ers. Oh, it's almost time. Football is almost here. I am just pulling my hair. We got our draft order this year, fantasy draft order. I am 7 in a 10-team draft, $50 buy-in, not super big. We're trying to get to 100. That's our goal. But So I'm just ready for the Niners to be back. I'm ready to see Kyle Shanahan's team. I am just it's like a puzzle box. But Chip Kelly's, I had a lot of reservations about. We did a whole episode a year ago about what we thought that was going to be, and it didn't turn out to be that way. Tom Sula, we did an episode about that and about maybe the best case scenarios about that, but we weren't that excited. But I think we all agree that this year is going to be different. Now, 49er faithful, GoldCast Nation, GoldCast faithful, this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast and you've been a podcast listener for us for the last 3.5 years, thank you, by the way. We really appreciate it. You're the best. Come reach out to us on social media. So if you're listening to this, we made our bread and butter. This is GoldCast. It used to be called the 49ers GoldCast, and all we ever covered before was our God-blessed 49ers. This is the team. This is the team we grew up on. This is we were raised in the dynasty era. This is the team that I live and die for. I love me some Warriors, love me some Giants, but I live and die for the 49ers. And we cover everything, but that is my team. I know, Ray, that is your team. This is the team, and I think that this year it feels different. What do you think?
I think it does, and I know in the past we tried to, find some optimism to give ourselves, and fans alike, more hope than what the results gave us. And in this case, I think it's very different because of A, all of the results we've had thus far, and B, sort of it's different, like Chip Kelly and Tom Sula didn't garner the same appeal and respect that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan get. Immediately all of a sudden free agents were like, dude, I want to come to San Francisco and play under Kyle. I did great under him. We have a great relationship. It was a bunch of guys that played for him that were like, I'm down. And then John, being an ex-pro, has this relatability to all the players because he's a former pro and he was an amazing pro. He has this relatability to the players and understanding of the game that Trent Baalke never had. So that immediately gives him a leg up, not only in his position, which he's brand new to and seems to be handling with tremendous, he looks like a veteran GM out there. So that in combination with one of the smartest minds and one of the smartest, young minds in football in Kyle, and we know how good his dad is just kind of has this, there's this reassurance that we're probably not going to be a good team this year, but the direction we're headed is, I feel good about it because I know that regardless of what happens this season, we're on our way back to, to being a good football team. And I even though I didn't predict, John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan coming, the fact that we did get them, I can't think of a better combination that we could have had that would have made me feel the same way. Josh McDaniels and some other GM probably wouldn't have had me feeling the same way. Not the way that these two do. These two make me feel. I mean, do you feel that too?
I totally do. And, we did a whole episode on Adam Peters, and that was the big game changer. And then Martin Mayhew also. Adam Peters, for those of you who aren't familiar or haven't listened to that episode, if you're on our YouTube feed, you can check it out. If you just scroll down further on iTunes, you can see Adam Peters, the game changer. Adam Peters was the head of college scouting at Denver, and he was a national scout for Denver during their Super Bowl run. He basically kind of gifted from John Elway over to John Lynch, and he came underneath John Lynch to bring his expertise and his scouting expertise over to the San Francisco 49ers. That was a huge part. Martin Mayhew was former GM of the Detroit Lions, and these two guys are really the secret weapons that we believe really helped shape John Lynch's very first draft this year. That and a willingness, obviously, by Kyle Shanahan to play ball. There's a lot of cohesion in the front office. They struggled with that during the Harbaugh Baalke era. Looks like they kind of struggled out every era Baalke was a part of. But like you said, Raymond, Shanahan brings with him a level of respect that those two previous coaches in the middle did not. People weren't running. There was a racial controversy with Chip Kelly. Obviously, Jim Tomsula was considered to be heavily underqualified because he was only a position coach. They felt like he wasn't really qualified to take on the mantle of a head coach. And yeah, Shanahan doesn't have those. Shanahan helped offensively take the Atlanta Falcons to a level they'd never been before. He helped get them to that Super Bowl. I've said this a couple times. I'll say it again. I think him losing the Super Bowl was the best thing that ever happened to the San Francisco 49ers, not the Atlanta Falcons fans. If you're an Atlanta Falcon fan, I'm sorry, and why are you listening to this podcast? That's weird. So I do believe that the 49ers, it was the best thing for him. Nothing motivates super competitive, super aggressive athletes or people that want to succeed, ambitious people, than losing at the biggest stage. That is what defines you and makes you. And so that, I really believe Kyle Shanahan is going to make this team special. And I'm with you. Listen, we're going to be the first to say it here, and I've said it again. I've heard people go, what, you don't think, playoff run or 10-6? No. Between Raymond believes, you believe between 4 and 8. I believe between 4 and 6. That's where we stand. This team still, the quarterback issue is going to be huge, and I know we're going to put Brian Hoyer into a much more of a game manager mode, which kind of like Alex Smith's first year with Harbaugh. I think that's the right place to be, but I think in general we're going to see the shapings of a team that 2 to 3 years down the road is going to be really competitive, and I think you're going to see that starting this year, and hopefully starting in preseason. Raymond, why don't you tell us the teams we're going to be facing this preseason?
Yes, I will give you that schedule, but I wanted to bring something up. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the 49ers have been doing their training camp practices that started on Friday, and they even practiced Saturday and Sunday. Today was full pads, and Reuben Foster has had 2 picks out of the 3 practices they've had, including a pick 6 today. This guy and he's had 3 run stops, including tackles. 2 of them were tackles for losses. This guy is just a beast. To me, it seems like we're getting another Patrick Willis caliber player that's just going to be really, really good and impactful out of the gate. I mean, this guy is all over the place. They said exactly what you see in the college footage of him just being sideline to sideline. He's doing the exact same thing in the practice with pros and veterans.
Man,
so I thought that was really encouraging.
That's super encouraging. If you go back, if you again kind of going through, and we'll talk about that. We'll link that in the YouTube clip. Check it out on iTunes. Matt Manick, Hollywood writer, diehard 49er fan. We had him on, and his first pick, man, like 6 months ago, he was saying, Rueben Foster, we need to get this Reuben Foster kid. And when he was on our show, just go down. It's like our NFL draft preview with Matt Manick. We should have him
back and see what his thoughts are now.
Oh, he's definitely going to be back. He'll be back for a lot of the season. So get ready to hear a lot of Matt Manick. He'll be joining us for the season. Diehard 49er fan. Awesome, really good Hollywood writer. He's killer. So, but Matt will be back. To talk about that. But Reuben Foster was his very first pick, and I was very high on him after everything that Matt had shown me and everything we talked about. It's just really happy. I'm really happy to see that he's making good on that. That's awesome. I can't wait to see this kid. Now, it says a lot about Reuben Foster, but those 2 picks don't say a lot about Brian Hoyer. Just saying.
They don't. So but what I can say is that Brian Hoyer completed, I think, 3 or 4 deep passes today, including to Pierre Garçon, Marquise Goodwin, and another wide receiver too. So they said that despite the pick, and I think the pick, I'm not sure if the pick was from Brian Hoyer, the pick 6, or if it was from one of the other quarterbacks, because I know that players are shifting between units. So some guys who you would think are first stringers are getting second team reps, and then they might rotate other guys in to give them reps to just see how they do with first stringers, et cetera, et cetera. And so guys switch around. So I have to double check to see if the pick 6 was Brian Hoyer. I think the Friday pick was Brian Hoyer. And then this one was a tip. It was a tip pass. I'll have to go back. There's actually a video on it, so I can go and check to see if that is. Yeah, it was tipped, and then Foster grabbed it, and then took it to the house. But Brian Hoyer did complete a bunch of deep balls today, and from what the videos I saw and what the commentators were saying, that they were all perfect throws, and he looked really, really good today. And I know that he had that private practice where he invited all the players to come and do some private practicing on their own time with him in Texas, and a bunch of receivers and tight ends and fullbacks all went with him to do that. So, I mean, he's doing his due diligence, as, whether he's, obviously he's not the long-term option, and he knows that, but he's focusing on what his job is. And so I'll commend him for that, regardless of, his track record overall as a pro, because he's at least doing what he's been asked to do, and you couldn't ask for anything more out of any pro, really. So kudos to him. Whether he's going to win a lot of games for us, is a topic for debate, obviously. But he did look good today. But our defense has looked consistently better throughout the course of Kyle Shanahan implementing this system. That's what I read. I know in the beginning the defense was doing really good. I think it's partially because Kyle's system is not an easy system, but it's a pro system. So even the guys who know it, there's still some adjustments being made, because now he's the head coach. He's not only just a coordinator that has some way into the scheme. Now he has a 100% of sway into the scheme. So it's a little bit different in that regard. But either way, it looks pretty promising. As far as our preseason schedule goes, not next Friday, but the following Friday, August 11th, we're going to be in Arrowhead Stadium playing the Chiefs. That'll be at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Then on August 19th, Saturday, day after my birthday, we're going to be hosting the Denver Broncos here in Santa Clara. That'll be a 7 o'clock game. Then on August 27th, we're going to be flying to Minnesota to play the Vikings. That'll be at 5 o'clock. And then at the end of August on 31st, we'll be hosting the Chargers, and that's again as another 7 o'clock game. Good teams.
Oh.
We're playing that whole almost that entire division, minus
except for the Raiders.
Oh, yeah, well,
they
canceled.
They did this last year too. Yeah, they did this last year too. Remember?
They made a formal announcement because they all got rowdy, so they said that Niners and Raiders will no longer play in the preseasons. We'll no longer do exhibition. So we're playing the rest of their division.
Yep, except for them. Yeah, which that's fine. Whatever. Well, we'll have plenty of Raider fans back on to talk a bunch of shit to them too. I cannot wait. This is going to be awesome. I think that about wraps it up for today. Raymond, before we leave, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
You can find me on Twitter at RaySolis1. I'm also on Instagram, I think, at RaySolis1 or RaySolis2. Although Twitter is a little bit more flexible in terms of I comment on more things than just my career, whereas Instagram is kind of mostly my career, my day career.
There you go. You can find me at Rudy Solis 3rd, Rudy Solis 3RD. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Add me. Don't forget to go on to our Facebook fan page and join the GoldCast Nation. Go ahead and talk to us there. We love to hear from you guys. It's been a while. We've been gone for most of the month, but we are back, and we are back with a vengeance, and we are back through the rest of the year. So get ready. 49ers, here we go. Bay Area. So concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the faithful. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
Boom! We'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.
This is the GoldCast.